They say the most dangerous moments in life aren't when you're running toward trouble. They're when you're just standing still, and trouble walks straight toward you. I wasn't looking for him. I wasn't looking for anyone. I was just killing time in a place I had no business being. But sometimes, temptation doesn't announce itself with flashing lights. It slips in quietly, wearing a smile that feels like it was meant for you. That night, my life didn't just take a turn, it unraveled. The air inside the bar was warm and a little too thick. The kind of place where the smell of whiskey and cheap cologne clung to your clothes long after you left. I was halfway through a drink I didn't even really want, swirling the ice around just to give my hands something to do. I had told myself I was only stopping in for a few minutes. I didn't plan to sit. I didn't plan to talk to anyone. And I definitely didn't plan to meet Marcus. Tyler, my husband, was 3 states away on a business trip. The kind of trip where his calls came late at night, rushed, tired, sometimes distracted. I told myself I understood. I told myself we were fine. But fine had started to feel like the slowest way to lose someone. Then the door opened and Marcus walked in. He didn't just walk in, he carried the room with him. Some people have that kind of presence. The kind that makes you straighten your back without realizing it. Makes you suddenly aware of your hands, your posture, the way your hair might look under the light. Marcus had it. He scanned the room like he was looking for something or someone. And when his eyes landed on me, it felt like the rest of the noise faded into a low hum. He didn't come straight over. Instead, he ordered a drink, chatted briefly with the bartender, and only then started walking toward my table. Slow, measured steps, like he had all the time in the world. By the time he stood in front of me, I was already nervous. Not because I thought anything would happen, but because I didn't trust how my body seemed to notice him before my mind had the chance to catch up. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. His voice was low, smooth. The kind that rolls in under your skin before you realize it's there. I could have said no. I should have said no. But instead, I gestured to the empty seat across from me. We talked. About nothing at first. Weather, the music playing in the background, the kind of small talk that gives you just enough space to study someone without them noticing. But I noticed everything. The way his eyes stayed locked on mine. The way he leaned in slightly when I spoke, like my words deserved his full attention. It had been a long time since anyone looked at me like that. I told myself it was harmless, just conversation, just passing time until I finished my drink and went home. But harmless doesn't make your pulse quicken. Harmless doesn't make you forget the rest of the room exists. And when he smiled, really smiled, it felt like an invitation to something I wasn't supposed to want. The bar felt smaller then, the air heavier. Every time his knee brushed mine under the table, I told myself it was accidental. Every time his gaze lingered a little too long, I told myself I was imagining it. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. When I finished my drink, he offered to walk me out. It was cold, the kind of night that made you hunch your shoulders and bury your hands deep in your pockets. But when he slipped his coat around me, I didn't stop him. I didn't even think about it. I just let the warmth and the weight of it settle on my shoulders, like it belonged there. We walked in silence for a while, our steps falling into sync. I could feel him watching me from the corner of his eye, like he was waiting for some invisible signal. When we reached the corner, he stopped. And when I turned to face him, the rest of the world seemed to fade out. Streetlights blurring, distant traffic muffled. "I don't know why, but I feel like I've known you longer than 30 minutes, he said, smiling faintly. I laughed, because what else could I do? But inside, I felt the same, and that terrified me more than anything. We could have parted ways right there. I could have gone home, closed my door, and let the night dissolve into nothing more than a fleeting memory. But when he asked if I wanted to keep walking, I heard myself say yes. The streets were quiet, except for the soft crunch of our footsteps on the pavement. Somewhere in the distance, a train horn called out, long and lonely. We didn't talk much, but we didn't need to. There was something unspoken passing between us, threading its way through the spaces where words would have been. Eventually, we stopped in front of a small motel. Its neon sign flickered weakly, buzzing against the night. "This is me," he said, and I should have kept walking. I should have wished him good night and disappeared into the safety of my own home. But instead, I found myself asking if he had coffee. He smiled like he'd been hoping I'd say that all along. The door clicked shut behind us, and suddenly the world outside didn't exist anymore. There was music playing low from a radio somewhere, an old song I couldn't quite place. He poured 2 cups, handed me one. Our fingers brushed, and I swear I felt it all the way to my spine. We sat side by side on the edge of the bed, sipping in silence. I stared at the floor, the wall, anywhere but him, because every time my eyes met his, something inside me shifted, something I didn't want to admit was there. Marcus set his cup down first. I heard the faint clink against the nightstand, then felt the mattress shift as he turned toward me. "You don't have to be here," he said softly, "but I'm glad you are. I should have stood. I should have walked out that door." But his words wrapped around me like a blanket, warm and dangerous. And when his hand found mine, I didn't pull away. The first kiss wasn't desperate. It was slow, searching, like he was mapping out the parts of me I'd forgotten existed. I didn't realize I was trembling until his hands stilled my shoulders. Everything after that felt like falling, not a stumble, but a deliberate step off the edge. I let myself sink into the feeling, the heat, the quiet promise in the way he touched me. By the time I left the next morning, the sun was already high, and the world outside felt almost too bright. I told myself it was just one night, just a mistake I'd buried deep enough to never dig up again. But some mistakes have a way of following you, no matter how fast you try to outrun them. And Marcus wasn't done with me yet. It started with messages, short at first, then longer, then pictures. Every ping on my phone was another thread pulling me back to him. I told myself I wouldn't answer, that I'd block his number and move on. But wanting something you shouldn't have has a way of eating at you until you give in. The next time we met, It wasn't by accident. It was a choice. And once you choose something, you own the consequences. The air between us felt charged, like a storm about to break. And this time, there was no small talk, no hesitation, just the pull of something neither of us wanted to stop. When he kissed me this time, it wasn't gentle. It was hungry, like he'd been starving, and I was the only thing that could save him. And I matched him, breath for breath. We didn't bother pretending anymore. Every glance, every touch, every word was a confession neither of us said out loud. I knew it couldn't last. I knew there'd be a day when this would all come crashing down. But knowing and stopping are two very different things. So I let it happen, again and again, until the line between want and need blurred so badly, I couldn't tell the difference anymore. Looking back now, I can see the exact moment I should have stopped. But back then, I wasn't ready to let go. The night it all fell apart wasn't loud. There were no screams, no slammed doors, just silence, the kind that drowns you. He found out. Not from me, not from Marcus, from someone who had been watching, waiting for the perfect moment to burn it all down. When he looked at me, it wasn't anger I saw first. It was something worse, disappointment. You can explain anger. You can fight it. But disappointment, it just sits there, heavy, permanent. And in that moment, I realized I hadn't just broken him, I'd broken something in myself too. Marcus disappeared after that. No calls, no texts, no shadow at my door. It was like he'd never existed. But the mess he left behind, that was mine to clean up. And some stains never come out. Some nights, I still hear the sound of his voice in my head. Not Marcus's, his, the man I promised forever to. And in the quiet, I wonder if he ever hears mine, or if he's learned to live in the silence I left behind. People like to think betrayal is a sharp pain, quick, brutal, overfast. But the truth? It's a slow poison, and once it's in your blood, it never really leaves. That's the part no one tells you. The part you only learn when it's far too late. So here I am, not asking for forgiveness, not pretending to deserve it, just telling the story, because sometimes that's all that's left to do.